In this lesson, we'll discuss Copy Monitor, specifically copying columns from an architect's model to our structural model. So in the example we have on our screen, we're looking at grids, and if you zoom in, there's some columns at the intersection of the grids, and there's a floor outline as well. This is actually all from the architect's model, so I'm viewing that as a linked file. To see this linked file and how it's set up, click the Insert tab on your ribbon, then click Manage Links. Here I can see Architect Model 506 is linked in to my current structural project. Go ahead and click OK. Right now, again, I'm just viewing this, but I'd like to have these columns in my current structure project. So you could do a couple different things. One is you could create your own columns and then use Copy Monitor to monitor the actual column from my project to the column in the architect's project and vice versa. Or a better method would be just to simply copy their column from the architect's project to my project. Now, when I do that, I could use the column exactly as it is, but the problem would be if I didn't have that column type loaded inside of my project. Really, what I want to do is specify or set if the architect's column is of this type, I want to set it to equal this type in my project, so it's mapped. So basically, I could do this for columns, for grids, for walls, for levels, a variety of different things. So to see this information, let's go to the Collaborate tab. On the Collaborate tab, you have a Copy Monitor dropdown. Click Select Link. This will allow me to select the architect's linked project. And all I have to do is mouse over one of the grid bubbles, and you see the actual link appear in a blue box, the architect's model. Go ahead and select it. This will then open up the ribbon for Copy Monitor. Now, to see the options and settings of how we are going to monitor element to element, click Options on the ribbon. This displays 5 different tabs, and on the tabs you have a column for original type and new type. Original type is referring to the architect's model. New type is what we have in our model. So if I look at the Column tab, I can see the original type column is the HSS round hollow structural column of a specific dimension. This was the column that was placed by the architect. Now, in my project, maybe I don't have that column type. So my new type, I'm mapping to this W-wide flange column. And if I click in that area, I could actually change this to another column that I currently have loaded in my Revit project. So I could essentially load in the HSS round hollow and map the two together, or I could map it to one of the existing columns that I'm using. Reason for that is maybe the architect just dropped in a column for a placeholder, but as a structural engineer, I need to make sure this is a specific type of column. So I could make sure the two are aligned together or being monitored in this exact scenario. I'm going to leave it set as is. And I can do the same thing for walls, for floors, grids, and also levels as well. So you could see there's a variety of different things you could monitor when you're copying it. So again, this is basically setting it up that if it doesn't exist in my model, my project, I'm copying it from the linked Revit project, and then I'll monitor it. In this case, we're going to copy the actual column. Go ahead and click OK. So that was the setting. Now to actually do the copying of the column, I'm going to first zoom in, and I can see 2 black dots representing the, in this case, columns. And I'm going to copy those. Again, I could recreate them in my project, but I don't want to do that. I'm just going to copy and then associate that to my project. So on the ribbon, click Copy. Now what Revit will ask you to do is select the elements that you want to copy and then monitor. So I can move over one of the columns, select it, and I can see now it's selected, it's copied, and I see the one that I associated to it, the little I column, appears, because that's the one I'm using in my project. The little symbol above it, kind of like a heartbeat symbol, represents that those two are being monitored. I can continue on and do the same thing to the other one. Click it, and now it's being monitored. So I copied it, and now I'm monitoring it. Once I'm done, simply click Finish. And now I have those 2 columns, the one visible from the architect's model and the one that I'm drawing we're using in my structural model. So as a review, in this lesson, we looked at Copy Monitor, specifically copying elements such as columns that exist in the linked Revit project to our project. What we looked at was actually how to set the mapping up. So if I'm copying a column, for example, from the architect's model, and maybe that column they used wasn't the correct one that I want to use, or the one they used I don't have in my model, I set mapping settings. And that can be done for columns, for grids, for levels, for walls even. Then once the mapping settings are set, then I simply executed the copy monitor copy command, selected the column from the architect model, which copied it, and it placed now my column that I associated to the architect's one into my model. After that step was done, the columns are now being monitored.